Hello and welcome back to Oversteer Auto Reviews. Here I have this 2012 Audi S4 Prestige finished in brilliant red, courtesy of my good friend Reece. I have his Instagram on this side right over here. Now this is actually a really good vehicle. It's got a few light modifications on it as well. Let's break this car down and complete a review. The front end on the S4 is really understated for what it packs underneath the hood. Up front there is a really small modification. It's not really small in size, but it does make a big difference in how the vehicle looks. This is an aftermarket black grille with the hexagonal pattern, the Audi S4 logo over here, along with the Audi chrome badge right over here. The lights are the B8 lights. They look quite good. I do prefer the B8.5 looks in terms of modern styling, but these are really good. They also function very well at night. Below these you have the fog lights and this nice black splitter right over here. This does provide more cooling to the Supercharged V6, which I'll show you right about now. Underneath the hood we have this 3-liter Reece Supercharged V6. This does pump out 333 horsepower stock, and it does have a piggyback tune along with the CTS turbo air intake. Now these together add a 30 horsepower increase, which will probably have around 330 horsepower at the wheels, which is really solid since this is a relatively short wheelbase sedan. Now this vehicle does have the optional sports differential, which means that you get increased torque vectoring along with a 60-40 rear front torque split. I think that's essential because newer Audis are known for their understeering. There's a lot of videos of RS5s and S5s and S4s planting themselves into the side of mountains on mountain roads. This shouldn't be the case. You get a more rear biased drive, and then that in turn should make your out of corner handling a lot better. Now aside from that, you also get the torque vectoring, and torque vectoring will allow the engine to send power either to the right side or left side more or less, and that should allow for a better turn in and turn out response. Now with the Quattro all-wheel drive system, known for its rally heritage, you get a 0 to 60 stock in the mid 4 seconds. With the little engine modifications on this vehicle, this should be in the low 4s to high 3s. Here we have these 255mm width by 19-inch diameter rotor wheels. This is all around. You have 250mm width tires with the Quattro all-wheel drive system, which does aid in cornering ability and overall ride comfort. Now behind these you have the single floating piston brakes, which are included on the F80 M3 as well. Not made by Audi obviously, but it's the same brake design. These stop very well, but they have 7mm of brake pad left and they're still squealing, which is a problem. The owner will most likely swap these out in a bit. The side profile on the S4 is actually quite nice. I like the way that the wheelbase isn't too long for it to look awkward like the A6, because the newer ones, they look too much alike, the A6, the A5 and the A4, but this is very much different. It does look a lot like its younger brother, the B8.5 generation, but that's not too much of an issue as that was a mid-year facelift for the 4 Series. Now the first modification on the side are sequential turn signals, which do look a lot better. They give it a more classy look. You also have a supercharged badge on the front fender to prove that you have a supercharger if you couldn't hear it already. The vehicle also has a black optics package, which does make the side trim all black. I think it does look good because there's no other chrome all over the vehicle. Overall, the side silhouette is really nice. You have a very prominent side body line, and I think that looks good as well. You also have keyless entry. You just stick your hand in, the vehicle should unlock. You open the door, same thing for the exit. Press the button on the side, and it does lock like so. You do not have folding mirrors, but that's okay because this is a 2012 model, and most cars from the era did not have side folding mirrors when you lock them. Overall, good side. Let's go on to the rear. Here we are at the rear of the S4. There are some modifications over here, the most prominent one being this gloss black duckbill spoiler, the gloss black Audi badge, and the gloss black Audi S4 badge. These are all modifications not included with the black optics package. You also have the B8 taillights. The B8.5 do give you LED refined taillights, but these don't look bad. If you do want to make them look better without spending too much money, then all you have to do is tint them just a bit. Now you also have the quad exhaust tips, which are signature to the S4. The A4 has the single exit, and then the RS4 has the oval tips. I prefer these because they just look good. You also have a regular matte gray diffuser, if you could call it a diffuser, and then on the left you can see just how well this vehicle sits. You do have very slight fender arches along with the really thick rear wheels, and I think it looks very nice. Time to get on with the trunk test. It is in S4 series of Audi, so I'm not expecting it to be too large. But I'd say it does fit well. The RS5 I reviewed had a larger trunk than this. That's a bigger vehicle, and it's also newer. This does pass the trunk test. I could probably close it, so it's a pass. First impressions on the S4 driver side are really nice. The steering wheel is relatively understated. The owner does want to swap a B8.5 or an aftermarket steering wheel for the flat bottom look, and I think that's a really good idea, especially with this rather boring looking Audi front airbag holder. You do have really small paddle shifters, but there is a fix for that. The owner does have these, which do clap on to the paddles like so. You do have to put either 3M or you bolt them on from the side. The owner prefers the smaller ones as they are easier to maneuver in turns, and I think that makes a lot of sense. You do have your relatively boring plastic looking signal stalks along with the cruise control. The cruise control in this vehicle does brake for you. The owner loves that feature. It's one of his favorite features about the car, aside from the power and the transmission, along with the all-wheel drive control. You do have your light switches, which are nice and high. I do like the fact that they are high because most cars, they're down low over here, and they take away from how you want your lights while you're driving. You also have an air vent right over here, and you have them in the center where you have the CD player and climate control system over here. You have a very basic and boring looking drive select system. The owner does want to swap this one out. It does look too plain. It is wrapped in leather. You have electronic parking brake, which does engage and disengage with the push or pull of the switch, and behind that you have the engine start stop button along with the radio volume controlled and the on and off button. Overall, a really simple display system. I think it's good because you do want to be focused on driving, especially in a car that's S4. The S-Line as a whole is a more driver oriented experience aside from the A series, and I think that's why it's relatively understated, especially from a car coming from 2012. The doors panel are wrapped mainly in leather. You have this mock plastic on the top and bottom. This vehicle does come with the Bang & Olufsen sound system. There is an upgraded subwoofer in the rear because the owner said that the bass is relatively lackluster, and I think that makes sense. Bang & Olufsen is more treble and refined music oriented, not like any hip-hop music that you'd want to listen to while hauling down the freeway at 110 miles an hour. Here we are driving the S4. Very faint supercharger under really moderate acceleration. Overall pickup is really good. About to do an acceleration, just a couple downshifts before. Torque definitely pushes your whole body against the back of the seat. Obviously not a bad thing. Nappa leather and a really good bolstering does hold you really well. Suspension is really soft for the S4. I've driven a 2014 E350 and the suspension on that is a lot stiffer. Now it's not a bad thing as you do need some comfort in your sports car. I just wish that it was stiffer. The owner has also complained about it, especially in terms with the body roll. For wide tires, tire noise really isn't too bad. Wind noise isn't bad either. The only reason you're hearing wind is because the sunroof was open just a bit so you could hear the car a bit more. Overall, I think the S4 is a really good car just to drive around in, a really good daily driver. If you need to overtake anyone, you don't have to worry about being too slow. I think that it's a really good buy, and if you are considering the vehicle, definitely go for it. And I'll also look at your options, those being the 335i, like the owner mentions just a bit down in the video, and the Mercedes C350 Coupe, or the sedan, either way. I think those are two very good vehicles. I would probably go for the S4 in this case, just because it has the most power and it is the most reliable as a sports car. And that is the complete review on the 2012 Audi S4 Prestige. Overall, I think it's a very, very well designed vehicle. It does look very good. Doesn't look as old as it is. 2012 model in 2021. Really well designed. Drives really well as well. You get relatively wide tires all around. adds traction and overall handling ability. The front end looks gorgeous, the side profile is gorgeous, the rear end is gorgeous, interior is really well made. Nappa leather in the S4 is definitely a good upgrade, and I think it's well worth it, especially if you had to pay for the option back in 2012. Now here's the thing about the B8 generation. There was a mid-generation facelift on this S4 called the B8.5, like I mentioned earlier in the review, and I think that's a definite upgrade which you should do if you're on the market for one of these cars. The reason is that there is multiple cosmetic upgrades. You also get a different steering wheel and a different infotainment system along with the shifter, and it just looks a bit better. You get a lot better lights as well, LEDs in the front and rear, and I think that is what completes the S4 if you're trying to buy it. Now, the buyer of this vehicle did pay around $26,000 after all fees. I think that's a good price considering the fact that the market is really high inflated right now. You could probably sell it for around the same price and not have a loss on it, which you see in a lot of Audis because these are the center of depreciation in the United States. Now let's get a quick interview from the owner on his thoughts about the S4. And that is all for today. Thank you very much for watching. Please do consider subscribing and remember to keep on driving.
This is my S4. I'm currently right at about 40,000 miles, and I've loved every single mile of it. I got it right at about 35, so I've only put on about 5,000 miles. When I was in the market for this car, I was thinking about getting a 335i, and I chose this over 335i. I drove both of them. In my opinion, this drives better reliability. Everything's better about it. When you put it into comfort mode with the Audi Drive Select, it drives like a dream. But it wasn't the same with the 335i. Sometimes when you get a BMW, you get that cutting edge performance where you throw it to the edge and you can just enjoy it. Same with this car, but sometimes you just want to cruise and enjoy yourself, and that's why I chose this car. And for my future modifications, I'm hoping to do a dual pulley setup, which is supercharger pulley upgrades, which spins the supercharger faster. Of course, more air in the engine, more power. And I'm hoping to probably make around 550 wheel horsepower running 10s at the drag strip. Other than that, basic suspension modifications so I can drive better. That's about it.